I did a little work with her husband, and yeah, I did a little work with her husband.
Yeah, I think you're cutting out. But yeah, I actually met Jarrett through my husband. Jarrett was his boxing coach. And so he introduced us, and I'd be working at the house, and he had some questions around joining the fun world of data. And so I got him connected to Param because he's pretty much where you go to when you want to learn data and cloud systems.
Thanks, Amina. Yeah, and I just introduced actually Jared to also to Amina's old business partner, a consulting company in the LA area. Cool. All right, I see people joining in a little bit late. Hey everyone, thanks for joining. We have a lot of people who registered, so we're gonna give everybody's usually a few minutes late. We're gonna give everybody like probably another 2 minutes or so to join, and then we'll get started here. But this session is a very open-ended, Q&A session with our current data engineering bootcamp cohort, as well as some of my old friend and colleagues who are on the call. Some of the data, these are like pretty much data experts. So it will be a very open Q&A session, and yeah, feel free to just say hi over the chat. Feel free to say hi, go off mute, say hi here. It's again, very open, very casual. If you're over on the chat, just say where you're joining from, and just, yeah, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. Alma, do you want to kick us off whenever it's good for you?
Yeah, let's get going. So I'll be co-moderating with Par. Hi, my name is Alma. I'm a teacher at DataStack Academy. Some of our wonderful students are here. Let's all go around for the panel and introduce ourselves. Maybe if you wouldn't mind talking about who you are and what you're working on now, if you're in school or if you have an interesting job. So like I said, I'm Alma. I'm a teacher and an engineer with DataStack, and I'm enjoying it so much. So on my screen, the next person is Par, and then Katherine.
Hey guys, everyone, I'm Par. I'm a Alma's coworker and also with DataStack Academy. I've been a data engineer for about 20 years, so I've been in the data world for a pretty long time. And with Alma and I, it's about a year ago we started DataStack Academy, so we offer a data engineering bootcamp right now. And I'm sure you're here to hear more about that later. That's it for me.
And hi, I'm Katherine Johnson. I have been doing data longer than I care to talk about, honestly. Right now, so I've worked at a bunch of different data companies that sell data products. So Elasticsearch, Oracle, Grafana most recently. But right now I'm working at a startup called Empathic that is using data and expert labelers to build machine learning models around empathy. And so detecting really specific moments that are measurable in conversations to be able to figure out, is there empathy being shown in this conversation?
I just posted the list of the order I see people on my screen for the panel. So it'd be Jess, Dylan, Amina, Jarrett, and then Bree, please.
Hi, my name's Jess. I am in Portland. I'm a current student with DataStack Academy. My background was primarily I worked in e-commerce for a while, and then I was in the service industry after the pandemic hit. And I decided that I needed to do something different, which is what led me to Paranoma and to DataStack Academy. And I could not be happier with my decisions.
Hey, I'm Dylan, also a current student at DataStack. Been in the service industry my entire life, basically, and when the pandemic hit, it just was not working out for me, and I kind of also had the time to reflect upon that. And so I joined DataStack, just kind of changed my life, and been loving like data stuff ever since. It's been kind of crazy. It's not something I expected, but pass it on.
Cool. Well, I kind of had a mini intro, but I'm Amina. I am a former founder of Infuse.io, which is a pretty like highly data specialized professional services or consulting firm. I am now the chief product and innovation officer at a company called Pardone. We are a family of digital media brands, so a lot of lifestyle blogs, things of that nature. I was really tasked earlier this year with coming in and building a data-driven platform to help serve better curated content to our 200 million plus user base based on essentially a bunch of really fun predictive analytics and some machine learning models. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm also kind of awkward, so I'm sure I'll probably fumble over my words during this thing, but that's what makes it fun.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jarrett. I'm from California. Background, most of the past almost decade, I've been in boxing, but due to a career injury, I had to stop that, and I was floundering around for a while, did some security work, but eventually I met Amina through her husband Ross, and was introduced to Paranoma, and taken off ever since. Just learning a ton so far, and just enjoying every week of it.
And Bree, you're up if you'd like.
I wasn't sure if it was me or not. I also missed the prompt. I've been having some internet issues today. I feel like it was say hi and say why you're here. Cool.
Yes. Yeah, just who you are and what you're doing.
Not really sure on that yet either. I'm Bree. I am also from a long history of service industry. I also did security for a while. Sorry, I'm a little out of it today. I'm sure none of you, or all of you, can understand. I am currently enrolled in the DataStack Academy, and I absolutely love it. I'm currently down to 1 day a week because this is kind of an intensive course. I mean, 1 day a week for work, and I missed the last few weeks because I got a sweet leg injury, and I do not want to go back. I'm like, ugh. Can I just say I'm injured for the rest? I'm really excited that I just love the data world and everything it entails. So.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for being here, guests and panel. Seems like we have some guests coming and going. So I'd like to, before we just open the floor, maybe start with a question for the senior engineers on the panel, which I think would be helpful for our students also to hear, which is, what is the job market like for data engineers And what are y'all looking for when you were hiring junior engineers? No order for this one. Please just shout out when you're ready. And make sure to unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say I tend to jump in. I didn't want to do it, but here I go. The market for data engineers is actually really awesome. If you're able to, if you have the skill set to work with it, it's typically really easy to find a job. The tools that we're typically looking for are, it's not so much everything that you currently know, but some of your background, but then also your intellectual curiosity about learning new things, because everything is constantly changing. There's a new data, whatever, out basically every week. So we look for not somebody who's using exactly the tools that we're using, but somebody that has aligned experience that we feel like we could train. Or if we find somebody that has a perfect experience, that's great, but that never happens, ever.
Yeah, I can definitely add to that. I would definitely channel everything that Katherine said. In addition to just being in this field for so long, I think one of the things that I think makes engineers the most successful is always just going to be whether they're the right cultural fit and whether they just work for the organization. I think having the right skill sets is huge, but it doesn't have to be the reason why you get the job. I've been in many situations where we've chosen somebody because of their tenacity, their willingness to learn, their flexibility, their willingness to kind of jump into things that make them uncomfortable to really get past that and to just grow. I would much rather that. I would much rather somebody who's like willing to fail, but fail fast and learn even faster than, somebody who has every bullet point checked off on the checklist, but they're like too rigid in their approach. So I'd say definitely cultural fit is the biggest for me. I'll always hire for that. And I feel like you could really teach somebody who wants to learn anything in the world versus the opposite.
That's so true, because like data engineers are always like kind of glue between different processes and stuff. So even as a data engineer, there's like no way that he can know everything. It's like there's always going to be like a new piece of technology. So like that like fit and that tenacity is like probably like some of the most important skill that you can have, and like being hungry to go learn it, like just make it work kind of attitude. Yeah.
So I also think like one of the things to keep in mind as you guys embark on this data engineering, fun world is that data engineering is so interesting because you guys are at the nucleus kind of many different things. And those include new technologies, but they also include regulations and all kinds of fun stuff. And so it's impossible to go into a job and say, I can say yes to everything on the job description. It's literally impossible. Like I've been in this career for almost like, I can't even say probably 20 years, but I still don't know all the regulations and all the fun stuff. And I don't say that I do, but the reality of it is like, you'll pick up whatever you need to. Just go into it open-minded, and always be willing to feel uncomfortable and stretch yourself a little bit, like to that discomfort, because the reality of it is if it's a good organization, they're going to be okay with you not knowing or even failing, but you learn from that. Trust me, your biggest failures are going to be like your best lessons too.
Thank you. So it looks like we currently have mostly panel and one guest. Hello, April. Thank you for being here. You are a guest. It's nice to see you. So I was thinking, let's open the floor for questions, if this sounds good to everyone, both for our guests and also for our students who are here really to answer questions about what it's like to be a student. But since we're here with seasoned senior data engineers, maybe we can just make it more of an open conversation. Does that sound okay? All right, so open floor, please ask and answer away.
This is April, so thank you guys all for coming together today to answer my questions. I had asked Par last week what the students felt like they what had best prepared them for the program, or in retrospect, what they would have liked to have, how they would have liked to have prepared before you all started the program?
I can start on that. For me, I think the thing of preparing was just setting aside the time and kind of organizing my life around that and just making sure I was kind of all set up for that. Because the course does really, I came in with no experience. Like I maybe dabbled in HTML when I was in high school, but that doesn't really apply when you start actually programming. So I had no knowledge base kind of going into this. And it's just really kind of canned, but like just taking care of yourself first, like making sure you're getting enough rest, eating well, and just kind of like setting that time aside and allowing yourself to like learn and then also kind of have your life outside of that. That was the biggest thing for me and is still working currently. But and like if you really want to prepare, maybe look into Python a little bit. For me, I struggled like kind of learning about for loops and stuff. Like that's a concept, but you catch on, you learn it. Like, I don't think you need to sit and start studying before you go in. Like, you're doing this 8 hours a day. You're going to have time to like really dive into it. So I think just setting aside that time for yourself while you're in school to do that was like the best thing for me.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
I definitely agree with that on like, I think the thing that would most prepared me better was I haven't even touched a computer really since high school either. So like even just navigating a computer again was kind of complicated. I'm like, how are you guys doing this? Like I felt like the old lady, like back in my day, we used to have to schedule our internet time. But also it is 40 hours a week. And it is 40 hours a week. It's not really feasible. I mean, I'm a working class person, but I definitely should have saved up a bit more because working even a part-time job and going to school is kind of near impossible. Like, let's try to do like 70 hours a week, and it was just like my brain could not, like my body, like it was just, so going down to one or now hopefully none days a week. My bank account's not gonna like that, but my brain loves it. But yeah, so like even just being on a computer probably would help, and making sure you have the time and not too much to do, like responsible, you know, like after school, because it is nice to then just like, you know, either separate yourself from it or have time to like, I didn't quite get this concept, I need to like work at it for a few more, and having that time is pretty awesome. I honestly wouldn't even, I'd say that's incredibly more important than even attempting to start coding. Like they'll teach you everything you need to know about that end. But if you don't have the brain power for it, it's kind of hard to learn. So I'd say that's more important than really anything.
Yeah. Thanks, Bree. Sorry to jump in. Just one thing for the students and panel. Katherine, my friend Katherine, I don't know if you guys missed that, but she has to go in like 5 minutes or so. So I want to give you guys anything you would like to ask Katherine really quick.
I'm sorry for not paying better attention, but Katherine, do you mind repeating the name of the company you're currently working for? The work sounded really, really interesting.
Here, I can put it in the chat.
Thank you.
It's it is. It's
Yeah.
I just joined full-time a month ago. And I've been working like for other companies before that. But it's like there's something very real there. There's something actually measurable, which I thought was cool because it's in mental health and psychology. So to me, that's a completely new domain. So it was fascinating to me that it was measurable. But yeah, everything about what we're doing is about data. it's, finding new data, getting people to label the data, getting, like, once we have a model, then we want like new data to validate and test with the model. So like if you use all your data to train the model, then you don't have anything left. So it's all about data, and like, how can we generate like other data sets even? So that is at the core of it. And then what's public facing is really just an API. It's, here, give me some text. I'm going to give you some metrics back about it.
Wow.
And
Thank
we
you.
are
I missed the
hiring
initial
great.
introduction.
Huh?
Are you in predictive learning? I missed the initial introduction. Sorry. Are
It's
you
not
in
predictive learning. We've built machine learning models that were based on text that was expertly labeled by psychologists and social workers, to come up with a machine learning model that can detect empathy, which is several different things. Collaboration, it's synchrony, it's curiosity, but a lot of it has to do with like healthier team dynamics or better customer service types of things, which is what we're going after. So, and with that, I have to run because my 3 o'clock meeting just pinged me and they're like, it's now. So I have to go now. But
Thank you so
Carl.
much,
I think I saw
Katherine.
your data set on
Yeah.
Kaggle, right?
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Catherine.
sure. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.
No, I'm pretty sure I saw her API on Kaggle. At least it was called that. It was very close to what she just said.
I have some backup questions if y'all start freezing, but it seems like there's infinite questions for students or guests to ask Par and Amina, if you would like to flip them now, even though Catherine's gone.
This is April. What sort of companies are you guys having your internships set up with? Is that in the works already? I don't recall where you guys are in the whole process of the education.
Yeah, that's a great question, April. So the internships actually start, I believe it's August. We end the class on August 1st or July 30th, actually this cohort. And then there's 2 weeks, there's 1 week of kind of prep for the internship or career services. So the students, they're gonna do like apply for jobs even after the internship. And then there's 1 week of match processing between the companies and the interns. And that process is actually really, really interesting because like all the students get to interview all the companies and all the companies get to interview all the students. And they kind of rank each other and we try to, find the best match for the companies. As far as the companies goes, yes. And so the internship starts August 15th. So there's a 2-week gap between the end of the class and the internship. And then they go for 5 weeks. All the companies are already signed up. We actually have more companies than the spots, but that's just in case, like if a company like drops out last minute. 2 of them are local, 2 of them are remote. They actually happen to both be from like Cleveland area. And then another company, which is in actually LA area, that's our backup company. I don't know if I can give too much information about what the companies do without their consent, but and who they are. Yeah, like in the realm of data science, yeah. Is there anything specific or anything else you want to know, April, about that process or the internship?
Well, I don't feel like I have more questions about that. My partner is actually a software engineer and went to Epicodus. And so he's actually in his 6th year as an employee at the company that he interned with.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I just went to some big company, like what do they call it? President's Club thing in Hawaii with him. So I feel like I learned a whole lot about that whole process of how he got on. And of course, it was a very positive experience for him. So,
yeah, that's amazing. I believe all the companies that we've signed up, they're relatively all in medium sort of size and kind of growth period still. So I would say chance of continuing work or something with these companies are probably high. They're not, yeah. So I'm excited, but that's great to hear that, he's at the same spot and it's working. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic job switch for him, a career switch. Since I have you on the line, we've talked before that I'm in healthcare and have been for 25 years, and I'm wondering where this type of data engineering work could lands in healthcare, because I would like to stay in healthcare. At least for a period of time. And this is what I think for now, but who knows what would drive me once I was trained up and, beyond the junior level. So.
I think, Amina, you can probably talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I actually came out of healthcare too. So I was in healthcare for many years. I actually worked in organ transplant as a product manager, managing their kind of UNOS platform, if you will. So I started off in healthcare. I also thought I wanted to stay in healthcare, but the reality is I felt like data was pretty agnostic to industry. It's honestly one of the reasons why I loved professional services. So I'd say if you're somebody who's inquisitive and perhaps wants to know about many different industries or wants to work in a specific one, I highly recommend going the professional services route. Even like my old company that I'm no longer a part of, one of the beauties of being in that field, I'd say, is that you can essentially, you can work on a healthcare project for a year, 6 months, 2 years, and then you can move into something completely different, like building some like supply chain automation tool that's like, something that you haven't done before. My advice always to anybody kind of entering the world is I wouldn't like pigeonhole yourself into one specific thing, because data assets, data flows, all that, like just data is kind of infinite, and it doesn't really, the industry might not be the driving force to what you're going to love about working in data. It might just be actually like the function, the value behind the data that might be a little more rewarding, I'd say. Now, with that said, coming out of healthcare, I think some of the things that make healthcare a little trickier from the data perspective is that there's lots of regulations that you have to just kind of be mindful of if you want to go that route, which is fine. Like, I mean, it's a great place to be. It's also very time sensitive. Where like a lot of the times, like if I'm working even in my current job, it's a digital media platform. There's nothing like life saving there. But if like it can wait, it just can. If like the objective is it can wait, whereas in working in on that side of the fence, I think it could potentially be more challenging, but also very rewarding, just because you really truly could be saving lives with whatever you're kind of making. So,
Right.
I don't know, lots of insight that I have on that front, but it's I'd say focus on exploring the industries.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Like with healthcare and finance, I mean, the regulations and just the difficulty like around it, because there's just so many regulations and SLAs, people are expecting, these are like critical information. So it always makes it a lot more challenging. In some cases, more reward if you want to, from personal perspective or even financial perspective, those industries might tend to have like a little bit higher pay sometimes. But I want to second what Amina said about like working at professional services, and I always tell people this, and maybe that's what happened to my career too as a data person. Like early on, I was mostly doing professional services, and coming back to like data people know a little bit about a lot of things and not really know a lot about one thing. I think that's really important. And like with the professional services, you get that. Like when you're working at a consulting or professional services company, you get to work on different projects. So you get to see a lot of different problems. You get to solve a lot of different problems. You get to solve different problems different ways, different tools. I think the value of that early on in a career, it's just fantastic. And that quickly kind of like fast forwards your career towards like a seasoned data engineer or a data architect, etc.
Yeah, I think that's completely right. It's there's something really interesting about just exposing yourself to a lot of like different types of verticals, if you will. The process, and I've been at many different companies, especially working in professional services and like through Pivotal and Infuse, you just end up seeing a lot of different companies. I feel like everybody has a similar recipe, but their ingredients might be slightly different. And so being in that field, you'll after you've done it a few times, you see the recipe, you know, like people are generally following the same types of concepts, ideas, flows, but you get to kind of be a part of what their ingredients are, and that's what makes them unique. For anybody that want, like the industry that you do end up in, vertical wise, one of the things that I will note is if you're somebody who like is high on the innovation scale, being in healthcare, fintech, and that is really hard to change those industries, because in order for them to go on to like a event-driven data streaming platform, it's almost impossible sometimes, sadly, because there's so many regulations. The data is hosted in these like old warehouses, and in order to get the data out of that, you have to do all these crazy connections. And like we at Farm and I've done, you know, lots of that together. And so it like the impact, I think, is high, but innovation might be low. Whereas if you go to like something that's more startup-ish, you might not, the impact of like, oh my God, I'm changing the world might not necessarily be there because it's a startup and it's like small scale still, but innovation is super high. As you're going through your careers, you guys will figure out what like where you guys are on that scale, and you don't have to be one way or the other. It's just like you have to decide what works for you, and what kind of excites you.
Right, right.
Yeah, but that's totally true as well. There are some like cool, I'm gonna say cool, not them, but there are like startup companies around like using a lot of healthcare data, like image recognition, doing like, you know, those sort of like really forefront of like processing that data. That could be pretty interesting. That you might even get by, you know, in the startup mode, not really dealing with all the bureaucracy of a larger healthcare company and regulations and all of those things.
That's very true.
After working in healthcare for 25 years and then having this little window of like you could get out of the bureaucracy and do innovative things, it sounds actually very enticing to not be in healthcare, where it's the one place where I still have to write a check to like pay a bill, right? You know, you can't just they're like, well, you can, that's cash or check. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay, so as far as the innovation or like the clunkiest websites, right, to deal with sending a message to your physician or sending a message to your patient. So yeah, I do think that the opportunities with looking at imaging could probably be pretty interesting in healthcare, as far as like all the radiology and CT and all that. So
one really cool thing about healthcare is it's a very large field and can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Like there is APIs for like chest x-rays and stuff. And like, you know, my friend or one of my neighbors works, he's right now helping some etymologists with their SQL stuff. So he's getting to like look into, I think, like bubonic plague or something like that, and like, you know, determining where it's going to happen, like where the next breakout's going to be, and like all that kind of stuff. So it's, you know, you don't have to be stuck to the bureaucracy as much if you're like in a healthcare over here kind of.
yeah.
The one other thing I wanted to add, maybe coming back to the professional services, it's really good place to start as a junior data engineer too, because I think really the interests of both like a consulting company and a junior data engineer align. with professional service companies, usually they get like a project, so they have immediate need to like staff up. So like they have to step up, they have to like hire, folks. So it's like a quick job, right? In that sense. And B is always like, they have some senior staff that can oversee these projects. And then they have like typically the more like junior staff who do a lot of the work, who do, and so it's a good in that sense that you're always like tied to some senior staff too, and you get some of that mentorship in a way. And B, I mean, for the consulting professional services company, it's good too, because that blend, of course, like is a little bit better. They get to keep their costs down. They're not gonna, they don't have like their senior staff doing all the work. They can kind of have a mix, because for a professional services company, it's just about, at the end of the day, it's like how much money they're making on the project, right? I don't know. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? I know you probably know that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I love professional services. It's something that I probably will never get out of fully, just because I think it's this kind of incredible little thing that I don't know if it's an industry itself, kind of, I guess, but it's a service that exists. And if you're in it, then I feel like what you would learn in a regular job in 10 years, you could learn in professional services in a good 2 years. And so just this kind of like accelerated way of learning. My thing, and what I really, at least at Infuse, and I think definitely like with Farms, engagements and, past two, one of the things that made, and be careful as you kind of embark if you do want to go the professional services route, I definitely say choose an employer or an agency that focuses on culture and process. And so I'm really big on following the lab's culture and the lab's process. I really think that like paired programming is just a better way to work. And what it does for somebody that's really young and coming into like the field as like, this is your first real place in the job market, is it's not really that you're just coasting and you're like sitting by while this like senior person's doing the work. You have kind of an advocate, somebody sitting next to you, helping you guys like think through some of those. And then you'll kind of over time, as you pair with people, you will pick up those process things that they do that are just really important. And otherwise, like, I think it would just take you a very long time to learn them. So I'd say for any career that you go into, professional services or not, I would definitely find an organization where you could do like a good considerable amount of paired programming, because it's really very effective. So much so that now I run product engineering and data science at our org, and we even pair our product managers together, because it's so interesting to me that even at like the product level, like they're all disconnected. Like one product person doesn't know what the other product person's doing. What's going on here? So now everybody just pairs so that they have a good understanding like across the org, like all the important things that we're trying to deliver. Professional services, the culture I think is a lot better there. You also kind of get this interesting view on just development as a whole, because you're going in somewhere and there could be a layer or several layers between you and the client, but you also then over time form your own bond with the client. So you come in as an engineer and you're representing your own company, which is really great because you're learning from your own engineers. But then you're working with the company and you're learning about their domain around, the nuances that make them who they are. And that whole thing like is priceless, because that's really where you're gaining your experience. And so that's not something that you can really learn quickly otherwise. Even if you go into a company, they always say like the first 6 months, like you're not very, like you're just kind of onboarding, because like there is just a lot to learn. I would say that's like very accelerated in the world of professional services, because you guys are kind of going in, you're pairing with people, you're pairing with a client, you're doing all this stuff, and you're just kind of like a sponge for all the goodies.
Such a great point. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, absolutely. This makes me want to just go back to professional. So now I'm selling myself back into the field. Like, man, I should just go back to what I was doing.
What is professional services?
It's basically just consulting. I mean, most people know it as consulting, but I would say it's any kind of company that's providing a like service. So professional service is basically either your staff augmentation or you guys are like delivery based engineers where you have a set of deliverables and you guys have to figure out how to deliver that. You might be building a specific feature or a piece of the platform or the whole platform. There's also like a managed services aspect, which I'm honestly not as familiar with. But that's like once a platform is built out and they just need the support to keep things running the way that they are. Less innovative, more support focused. There's that side of it too, but I'm not as familiar on the managed services side of the house.
Maybe a question for our students, just do you guys want to talk about the experience? What were some of your fears coming into this? And I know we get this question a lot too, and maybe there's some misconception of clearing this up too. Like, do you have to be a coder? Do you have to have a strong math background coming into the boot camp? Like, what do you need to know? What type of person you should be? Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely speak to that. I was interested in science as a little kid, and then I got to high school, and I think high school math kind of scared the STEM right out of me. I ended up pursuing political science in college, and I never thought of myself as particularly mathematically inclined, particularly like tech savvy. I mean, I use a computer, but beyond that, didn't have a lot of programming experience going into it, if any. And so when I started, I feel like I got really lucky because I ended up really, really loving it. But at the same time, it's a kind of thinking that maybe you've never experienced before. At least I had not really kind of delved into thinking programmatically before. But the moment I did, it was endlessly fascinating, and it's actually just a lot of fun. So I've really enjoyed learning how to think like this, and the way the Parent Alma teach it, it came to me pretty intuitively. But yeah, I would say that it's not like memorizing concepts and writing them down on a worksheet. It's very fluid and intuitive kind of method of learning.
I would add on to kind of what mentioning about the math standpoint. Myself, I don't know, I might have failed algebra maybe 3 or more times throughout high school and college. So, but I've been doing just fine in the course so far. The little math that is involved, you kind of program the computer to do it for you, so you don't, not really anything to memorize mathematically. And say, I guess one of my biggest fears is, memorizing certain concepts and whatnot. But I think the biggest takeaway I've kind of gotten from this course is if I don't know something, it's pretty easy generally to kind of find out on your own. The great advice that if you don't know something, it's probably on Google or something, and that's actually pretty much encouraged. I mean, unless Par and Alma help me out, otherwise, there's the resources are there.
Yeah, kind of speaking to like the math and like high school and stuff. Yeah, I terrible in high school. I was pretty much a burnout. Like my high school was like bottom 5 in the state. Like I did not learn much there. So I didn't have like a great knowledge set coming into it. And I did have that fear. I never did my homework or anything. There's fear of that and all of this. But it's kind of speaking to what Jess was saying is it's a little difficult, or it was for me, of like just kind of trying to learn it because making a computer talk for you. And so just like speaking to programming, it's like building anything in the world. It's just so open-ended. So you can really do whatever you want to. You just got to figure out the building blocks to do it. And all that information is available for you. It's crazy. And Google will allow you to just, boom, here's the top result, and that's how to do it. So then you just start piecing together and you can build whatever you want. It's so amazing. And that was for me kind of the eye-opening thing. And then like kind of shifting over to data, I didn't know if I would like it or love it or whatever, but I think there's just something there for everyone. Like there's data on everything and anything. So you want to collect data on how many times someone clicks their mouse or something. Like there's just like anything. So then you can just like draw conclusions and collect that data and just you do so much with it. I think that's the thing is like I think a lot of people think programming is just like some kind of hooded sweatshirt bro in a den somewhere, just like coding away. But I don't think that has to be the case. And I don't think it is the case. And I do believe it's not all this nerdy stuff. I think there's just so much out there. And like once you can kind of learn how to talk, I feel like it is a language. Once you can kind of figure out that language, it's just a great connection. And then you just have this like amazing skill set. I think once you get it, it just opens an entire world up.
It's so funny to hear all of this because you guys are doing so well now, as programmers, junior programmers, and it's just so great to see how you guys code now versus 3 months ago, and where you're gonna go 3 months from now. It's sort of like. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about like how you're viewing the job market, how you're viewing like entering the job market? Do you have any challenges, fear? Do you feel prepared? That because you're fairly close to the end of the program, so per se, you're fairly close to the beginning of the internship. But even at this point, you pretty much have all the knowledge, I feel like, to feel ready for it.
I feel like I just finally started actually even understanding what data engineering is. I'm like, much less what's available out there. Like I just read on some job that I was supposed to apply to yet like last week. I was like, oh, they had a blog about the pipeline that they follow, and it just like everything kind of connected for me. So like, not really. there is a lot out there though for the job market. It's kind of like, pick your, it's a little overwhelming, but it is really cool at how many different directions you can go into. Like there's so many. I just last 2 weeks ago, finished my Markov dictionary, and from there I got into like the language. There's like predictive like speech things, which is really cool. But I'm not gonna get into that too much, but like I don't remember what I was started. Sorry. It's throwing me off that I can see me.
I can speak to that a little bit. One of the things, I'm still very anxious about the job market just because anxiety is kind of one of my typical states of being. But I will say that I feel one of the really, at least to me, appealing things about this industry is that it's kind of like, I think you guys were saying earlier, of just like one of the most important things is like companies knowing that you are capable of learning. And that's one of the big things about this program is like, do I feel like I'm the best programmer in the world? Absolutely not. Do I think I'm the best programmer? It's not about whether or not I'm the best programmer. It's about the fact that like I am learning to program and I'm learning quickly. And this course has really prepared me to be able to learn new technologies at a really rapid rate, which is something that, at least to my understanding, is really going to be a beneficial thing to have in the job market. So I keep reminding myself of that. And yeah, hopefully in a couple months that'll that'll really pay off. So
Relatedly, actually, there's a question I was wanting, because I think it would be helpful for everyone to pose to both the students and the senior engineers, which is you could talk about imposter syndrome, what, if you've had it, what that's been like for you and how you have dealt with it. I know all of our students at one point or another have broached that with me. So please share your thoughts about how you get through that.
I think mine ticked a little later than others. I noticed when other people are kind of going through it, and I feel like I'm a little bit in the throes of it right now since we've started the job search. And I'm still kind of dealing with it. I'm still in it, but since the course moves so quickly, you don't really realize how much you're learning and how quickly everything's going. So then there's also this part where you're like, oh, it's only been 6 months. Do I really have the right knowledge set? And it takes a lot of like reaffirming and just kind of like, I think for me going back and like looking at things like, oh, please don't look at that. That's awful. And you can see the progress. And I think that was very helpful for me, or is still helpful for me, is like looking back and just like realizing the change and the growth. And I think that's kind of the best way to fight it, is just kind of with that, like comparing yourself a little bit. And there's going to be points where you're stuck too, where it's not much change, but I think still looking back, you notice there is change that can happen. And I think that's the biggest focus, is just kind of keep pushing forward on that, for me at least.
It's mine, yeah. Also, the job search and some job postings, I think does go back to learning again. Like it's once we've come across, at least for me, coming across learning a certain amount of tools throughout the course, I feel a little, I guess, less intimidated. If I see a job posting, I don't exactly know this particular technology that they recommend or they ask for. It's like, oh well, it's kind of similar to this, or can learn this. And I mean, it's not being as intimidated by it, because I mean the things we've learned so far, way back, I would look at it and think like, oh, that seems like a massive task. I like understand how it works and what it's for, but I don't know. I think now I'm a lot more comfortable with that all, and applying to the job search. I mean,
I know, sorry guys, but yeah, thanks a lot for that. That was great. But I know Amina has to leave shortly as well, so I want to give everybody a last chance to ask Amina anything, or just a huge thank you, Amina, to being here, joining us, and all your insight. Your years and years of experience is highly valuable to the team.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks for showing up. And like when you and Catherine are both kind of just talking about like we're not looking for like the great programmer. We're looking for like someone that can really apply themselves. Like that kind of switched something for me at that moment. So that was actually really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I mentor some product managers in the industry, and they're always going out and finding jobs through after they're done with their masters and different things. And so I will say one of the things that I always tell people going into an interview, it's like my rule of thumb, and I'm pretty good at interviewing usually, but I'd say manifest the outcome that you want, and don't focus on like all the things that you could potentially like trip up on during the interview. So like just go into it like already feeling like you've manifested a good outcome for yourself, but also like take the opportunity to figure out if this is the right fit for you. So like, don't focus so much on your skill sets, because truly, I think a lot of the times when we do that, like you don't end up being yourself, and like yourself is like truly what you want on the job, like the skills you'll learn, but just be yourself. So I always like tell my team, I'm always like, just be cool. Like and it's kind of our thing, but it really is. It's like literally just be yourself, like be cool. And people will probably much more appreciate that than like some, spreadsheet of all the things you've done, because those things like don't really represent who you are as a individual. And it really helps you get past the imposter syndrome if you just can like look past all that and just say like, I'm here, I'm in this moment, I want to do well, and here's like all the attributes of me that somebody should want to hire. Like the skills you'll learn, you'll be fine. But
That's so valuable. Thank you so much. That's so well put. Thanks, Amina. That's I think that helps. And I feel ready that I can go get a job now. I've been this for a while, but I'm gonna use that statement you said, like just manifest what you want and don't focus on like all the little things. Yeah, that's such a great way of putting it.
yeah, I use that in everything. I'm like, I can tell you guys a really funny story. We recently, my family went on a vacation, and our nanny was with us, and they had like a bingo thing there, and my husband Ross was like, oh my God, Amina can't play bingo. She always wins. But bingo is like a completely game of randomness. Like there's no skill there. And so I was like, no, we're not going to play it. I don't want to win. So our nanny was like, what? How does this work? And I was like, no, honestly, you just have to go into things like just feeling like you already won them, and you'll probably win them. It's like this weird thing of attracting the energy that you want. And guess what? I won bingo again. And so like, it's literally, but there's no skill there. It's just this thing of the law of attraction, just attract the things that you want and like keep away the things that you don't, you'll be fine. So that's my thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amina, again for joining.
All right, guys. I got a job.
Yeah, thanks very much, Amina. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Amina.
All right. Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. Students, guests, or seniors. I hope this was useful for everyone.
This is April too, and I just wanted to express gratitude for you guys sticking in there and sharing all this, but also from an outsider's perspective, I feel a lot of like reciprocal gratitude within your group between your professors or teachers and the students, and it's a really neat thing to see, and to hear that you're all coming from different backgrounds and with different levels of, I guess, preparedness for this, but that everyone seems to have some excitement about what it is that they're learning, and that they've excitement about this new career opportunity. So it's really neat. I can kind of feel it. Maybe what's extra special is you're such a small crew, so it's really neat to see.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, this has been a really special, wonderful group, and I'm going to be happy when y'all students get jobs and everything, but I'm also really going to miss you. Kind of bummed that you're leaving. Yeah, no, April, I think you hit the nail on the head. Thank you. It's been a tight-knit group.
I can say that in my career, I might have had something close to this experience as far as the tight team, the synchronicity of the people, everybody's like goals and alignment, and just the joy. Honestly, I mean, that's actually, thank you to you guys, students. Thanks you for giving me this. Like, it's probably in my career, it's been 10 or 12 years since I experienced this last, this sort of feeling and energy. And it's been great. I wish you all the same when you leave us and go in the world and do this for other folks. And yeah, I think this was the first time somebody maybe called me a professor, which is really weird. I've been called a lot of things. Thanks, April. I don't know if I go that far, but yeah.
Pretty sure that's not your job description.
Now I'm just thinking of X-Men and like, thanks. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, for joining. Appreciate it. Thanks, April. That's also very assuring. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And April, I hope we see you again. And students, we'll see you obviously very soon. We'll see you at Retro.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Everyone.
Bye.